Hi everyone, welcome to the session of our web series, Fireside Chat with Champions, in which we interview global business leaders, asking them crowdsourced questions relevant to the biggest challenge we face today, COVID-19 and its impact on various aspects of business and the way we can steer ourselves clear in current uncertainties. Today we have a very special guest with us, Venkat Maroju. He is CEO of SourceTrace. SourceTrace is a company that has a global footprint and is providing software solution to agriculture and allied sectors. These technological solutions have made the agriculture value chain sustainable, transparent, and equitable, thus empowering farmers in developing countries. Venkat has spoken at international conferences such as UN Forum for Business and Human Rights, World Bank, USAID, Global Forum for Innovations in Agriculture, ICT for Development, to name a few. He also spoke at academic institutions such as MIT and Howard University. Venkat has won several awards, including Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2016 by the Old Dominion University, Agri Startup Award in 2018 at the Agri Startup Convention in New Delhi, as well as Global CEO Award at the Global Agriculture Leadership Summit in 2018 in India, and a TIE Charter Member Achievement Award for 2018. Venkat holds an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management and a PhD in Engineering from Old Dominion University and a Masters of Engineering from Indian School Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, and BE from Osmania University. Thanks, Venkat, for accepting our invitation. I would request you to let our viewers know a little bit more about you and your current activities and interests. Floor is yours, Venkat.
Thank you, Deepak. Thanks a lot for hosting me and giving me this opportunity to speak to this program. I've been watching. I think you've been doing this wonderful guests. You're bringing some of the thought leaders, important players in the digital agriculture. So it's thanks for doing that. I think that's very, very valuable. So just introduction, way of introduction, I think Deepak has done a very good job. Just a very little bit to add is, yeah, we are SourceTrace is a US-based, we're headquarters in Boston, and we have operations throughout the world. Currently, we are serving about 28 countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, Central America, a little bit of in Europe. But we have customers all over the US and Europe, but majority of our usage of our applications has been in developing economies, even though that is changing as we speak, as we are really offering solutions on the downstream, or you can call upstream of the value chain, where we will touch the retail stores and the consumer, especially with our traceability solution. So we will be having operations in developed countries as well very shortly. So we are currently reaching out to, so we have a platform called Data Green that we developed over the years, which helps digitize the agriculture value chain all the way from the farm to the fork, you can call, or seed to fork, or whatever way. But it's an end-to-end value chain, and we basically digitize the farmer, farm, crop, and the entire supply chain, including the logistics in between and the warehouses, and to the consumer. So we have applications like farm management, certification, monitoring and evaluation, supply chain management, traceability, you name it, to cover the entire value chain. And also we offer solutions to the stakeholders, right, in the agriculture value chain, starting with farmer groups, input suppliers, and the commodity buyers, financial institutions, even government institutions, because in developing countries, the governments have a large footprint of operationally vested in the agriculture operations and development organizations. So we are currently reaching about more than 1.2 million farmers in 28 countries, about 2.5 million hectares, and 350 different crops. So that's a footprint we have. I think I can talk more about my solutions and what we are done, what we're planning, as Deepak probably ask some questions, and as we go through this session. Yeah. Okay,
Great
Deepak,
work.
yours. Yeah.
Great work, Venkat. In fact, like amazed with the total coverage of hectares as well as the number of crops and number of farmers, and
Right.
uh, being observing your company for past at least 3 to 4 years. The great work you are doing in Africa. Like I interact with a lot
Right.
of African state heads as well as the business leaders there, and I can see the importance of what you are doing, specifically in the continents of Africa and Asia, which is very relevant. So Venkat, that brings us to our first question. Let me phrase it a little bit for you for setting a context for the audience. If you see that the corona or the COVID-19 is a pandemic which is gonna create famines, right? So if you
Right.
see what has been told by the World Food Organization, that it is about close to 100 million people being pushed towards hunger, right? Because it's across the globe, which also include a lot of countries which produce foods, and because of the scarcity of the future availability of food, they are not exporting that food. So Russia, Ukraine, even India, right? You find that these countries, they started thinking about, should we export the food produced? This is going to create a lot of challenges. How do you see the impact of COVID on the overall global food security in your views?
Yeah, it's a very relevant question at the time. Right now, we are living in whole world, and humanity is really challenged with COVID and Corona situation, right? So it has disruption on just about everything, and the food is an essential part of human existence. And we have seen lot of horror stories how the supply chains have been disrupted, and so good or bad, the food has become a global supply chain. Okay, there are bad things about it, but there are also good things about it, right? The bad things is it travels from very far away. It is distorting sometimes markets and all that. But on the other hand, if there's a quality product, if there's a demand and supply needs, it also helping farmers to reach those where somebody pays the right price or a premium price for their produce. So it's unfortunately good and bad. So we can try to enhance the good things about globalization and then minimize the bad things. Then I think we have a very good winning situation. So given that the food has become a global supply chain, and countries started becoming acting like protective, right? I mean, even within each country also, there was no what do you call infrastructure to hold it, or temporarily, or bring the food to the people where it's needed. I mean, there's so many examples, like um, in India and even in US, the milk they're just throwing on the ground, and in cases there were like 9,000 animals were euthanized because they could not send it to a slaughterhouse. I mean, so it is a big challenge, and the good thing about is it has, I mean, definitely an impact on the food security. I mean, for example, we are, a country like India, we have to start a new kharif season, and a lot of places they don't have the inputs properly because last 3 years nothing worked. So moving this produce, or producing, actually manufacturing and moving it, right, including the seeds, fertilizer, all that, right? So there's a big concern how that's going to be handled. But one good thing, we are in a world right now is very connected world. Okay, while it has become global, but the information can travel much faster. Information has the power to solve these type of issues. So that is the blessing. While there is a disruption, but I also am very hopeful that some of the technologies, I mean, people like us have been working on, and many people, I mean, it is agriculture is one of the least digitized sector until now, but you see a lot of activity. I mean, we have at least been working in this space for 7 years. I mean, it was very hard to get traction initially, but last 2-3 years, I mean, there's so many forces converging to increase this demand. And I think a COVID-like situation has really going to accelerate some of the adoption. I mean, I know the whole world is suffering, but we can tell you, being in the space where we are right now, we got some new projects in an emergency basis to minimize the disruption actually. In fact, as a technologist, we always talk about disruption is a good thing, but in the last 3 months I've been talking so much about minimizing disruption, continuation of the supply chain. It is such a, the same word was, like every other conference I used to hear or talk about, and now we are saying, okay, we have to minimize the disruption and have the continuity of. And the same thing, the technologies could help. So we have right now launching a market linkage platform on an emergency basis for Haryana horticulture farmers. There are 70,000 farmers there, and they're planning to, scrambling. We've been working with Haryana horticulture for various other aspects, but right now, in an emergency basis, we are deploying a market linkage so that the farmers could sell, because they lost that whole market, right? And then we are working with, just about to start working with World Fish in Bangladesh to really serve 700,000 farmers. It's a extension work that completely stalled, and they are worried about what to do, because it is as you rightfully said, it's a food security issue. Right now, their sustainability, they're sustaining, but immediately it becomes not only the farmer problem, but everybody's problem of food security. So there is a serious issue, and I'm seeing a lot of activity happening from different large governments to private sector to minimize, and hopefully the power of information and digitization will not lead us to a famine type of situation, food security type of situation. I'm very hopeful about that.
That's a great answer, because actually, you have covered the two very important aspects. One is that actually, the disruption. So you'll be surprised, past 3 years when I've been speaking at a lot of events, I always say agriculture need transformation, not disruption. Because if you disrupt, you will make a lot of people stand in queue for the food. Unfortunately, COVID ensured, right? Even if you don't want to disrupt, disruption happened. And you are rightly in projecting that we have to minimize disruption and using technology. So something which we were very keen to disrupt, now it's a situation where we have to undisrupt what has been disrupted. That's bring us to something a little bit more closer to what you said. You said that yes, there are availability of the products, there is availability of the demands. The problem is distribution, right? So the supply chain are actually what are creating a little bit bigger mess than actually what they're trying to solve. So I would like to understand from you a little bit about, because you have a global expertise and understanding of the global supply chain, where do you feel the solutions lies in both on the upstream, that is typically from the farm gate to the fork, at the same time also from the factory gate to the farm gate, the input side, how those disruption can be solved in shorter term or a longer term, so that we don't have these challenges of distribution coming in a more, I'm saying that, impactful way than what they are today.
Yeah, so like I said right earlier, unfortunately or fortunately, it has a global supply chain. I mean, we are living, for me, a lot of times globalization, especially you take from a developing country's point of view, it is treated as a bad thing. But I try to talk to them, just hold, a computer, a mobile phone, a company like Microsoft coming and working in your country, Google, how that could be a bad thing, right? Yeah, I understand if some oil company comes and they want to just lease out, or a mining company comes and, because there's no much value addition, they're just taking, away, then I will. But a technology company coming, or a technology coming to you without globalization, I mean, that is also a globalization. We don't talk about that. The people who are, I also have a lot of activists when they call, oh, US is bad this. And then they say, in your hand, you have a, Android phone, iPhone, you're using a computer from Dell, So tell me how that type of globalization is bad, right? So same thing with the food. There are good things about globalization. An organic cotton farmer that we work with in Hyderabad is able to get a guaranteed market and a premium price when he is able to sell to brands sitting in New York and London, highly ethical fashion brands, because these guys can produce one of the best organic cotton in the world. And then, he will go to whoever pays the best price. And so how that could be a wrong for that farmer, right? So there's a good and bad. So the food has become a global supply chain, and then inputs also have become a global. So when it comes to the distribution, I think a lot of times what happened is for operational efficiency, they've become centralized, right? Huge warehouses and all that. And so I mean, of course, there is also activists talking about local food, right? I mean, local food can only, if I'm in Boston, right? I mean, I can only grow 6 months. Actually, we have a very good garden back, and it's very difficult. I mean, we are worried about the temperatures. Like hardly we get 4 months. So if I am talking about local food, I'll have to starve on some places, right? So it is good and bad. These things have to be put it in the context. So the local food is can apply to certain sections, but for largely, I think it is a global. We have to accept that that's a reality. And the things that we could improve is especially some of the warehousing, cold chain. This infrastructure hasn't developed, especially in developing countries. So we need a more decentralized distribution. Okay, with a closer, then we can minimize some disruptions, right? And also, when you're doing a import and export of the commodities, I mean, right now it's a highly, some countries have really started becoming more cautious because they want to know the food contamination, how it's grown, including the human rights, child labor, slave labor. All these issues are really concerning. So the governments have, especially US and Europe, have become more regulation. I mean, regulation is good. I mean, but it can also become good in the sense they want to do the right thing, but sometimes it also causes other externalities, like slow down. Like Bangladesh used to export the second largest commodity is fish, and last few years it has been continuously going down, and of course they have to improve their processes. But just imagine one container comes all the way to the shores and you reject it. What kind of, so the things that we could do is, I think there's a greater need of flowing this information in a much advanced, much earlier, and some standards. Okay, develop standards that people could monitor this food, at the source, and then you don't need to, once it leaves the source, I mean, you can expect it to flow freely. So we need to little bit, it's a regulation, but it also have to do some level of deregulation and efficient processes of going to source and checking these, so that you don't have these disruptions, and costly mistakes. So that people have to work on it. Okay, that's a lot of issues on that front as well. So it's a logistics. It is a regulation comes to my mind that needs to be really. I mean, the farmers are growing, right? I mean, they will grow. They need the right inputs. And then, of course, that's the only thing they need to get it. But when the food is grown, how it has to be consumed, how it has to be marketed, all those things needs to be streamlined. And one of them is do more decentralization, more advanced planning. The advanced planning, so many times there's a demand and supply issue, right? There's a glut in the market, there's no price, or sometimes there's a shortage, and so by I mean, this is something the private sector could do, big players, but unfortunately it depends on the government's ability, because they are the ones at that aggregated level will be able to guide some advanced guidance on what crops are demanding, what is the balance, and do some incentives based on in a Telangana state. He said you can't grow these crops, and farmers started resisting, and they said, no, if you don't do this, I will not give some government benefits. Actually, it's a not a bad thing, because what happens is everybody's growing. In Telangana, majority crop is paddy, and it consumes so much water. And you don't need, I mean, you're exporting some, but not all of it. So there's so much mismatch in the demand and supply, and that type of incentive based regulation and incentive based, they're giving this Raitu Bandhu loans. They could adjust that based on certain crops and then plan better. Sorry for a long answer, but I think there are many aspects to it. Yeah, when it comes to especially the global supply chain we're talking about. Yeah.
No, that was very relevant actually. Like, and it's not a long answer because, as you rightly said, it is having multiple facets as well as multiple points and multiple
Right.
perspectives. So I would also like to add a small thing here because you rightly said that sometimes government do take actions without seeing too many impact on, like, on a deeper level. For example, the people are growing rice and wheat so much in India, which is not required because you are having MSP associated with that. So they see that security and they don't see
Correct.
security in a crop which is more relevant, more beneficial for them, more profitable for them, but they don't grow it because they don't see the security. So as you rightly said that a lot of changes in the governance is required. Also, I am coming to, like, the next question, which is dovetailed with this question itself. As you rightly said that when we move containers, right, of food stuff, once it reaches the shore and you reject it, it is like, it leads to a lot of companies closing down and then impacting the farmers. For example, just 3 or 4 years back, a lot of containers from Vietnam were rejected by European Union because they
Correct.
believed that there were traces of pesticide which were higher than what
Correct.
it supposed to be, and that actually, like, demotivated farmers to grow good paddy in Vietnam for the next few seasons. Now, what we need to understand is that, as you rightly said, that the right digital information, if it can be procured right in a
Yeah.
timely manner,
At the source.
it can help in reducing all these wastages. So that brings us to the question where actually I believe, like, what you are also doing a lot of work. Uh, what do you see, like, the adoption of digital technologies in agriculture? Which are the specific technologies you believe are more impactful than others? Also, you are doing a lot of excellent work in traceability, which I believe is very, very critical in today's global supply chain, which are going through a little bit of, I'm saying that, reset, and the reset is an opportunity to digitize, right? So I would like to
Correct.
also understand your perspective that how the traceability can solve the problem of both the food security as well as little bit of, I'm saying that, deformed global value chains.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a pretty. So traceability is actually a loaded word. Okay. When I talk about traceability, I mean, a lot of people who actually certifying your some farmer, right, with organic fair trade to UTZ, right, Forest Alliance, Global Gap, some level of certification is also called traceability. Okay. But that has definitely a place. I mean, the certification offers the end consumer a certain level of confidence in how this produce is grown. uh, so that is there, but also like physical traceability. So you are actually your product is in hand and you want to know where it originated, in all the history that it has gone through, which processes, where it was transported, any temperature, if it's a ambient controlled environment, you want to trace it, you can trace it. I mean, that level of detail is possible. Okay, but again, you don't want to overdo it, right? I mean, it depends on what is the end need. Based on that, you could tailor and offer that. So we have done a number of solutions to actually go back to the farm level, the end product consumer to the farm level. For example, this organic producer producing a cotton in India right now, the bales that the end in the brands, that high ethical fashion brands sitting in New York, London are buying, can trace exactly all the farmers contributed to that bale, and then the detailed information, because they have a very trusted relationship with these brands. This producer company shares that data, and from there to a flavors company that produces a flavor, contain vanilla or the perfume. You can trace that QR code, and we will give you the entire process step that it went through, as well as to the farmer and where it was transported and all that. So those type of solutions we have. So the way it could help is, I mean, one of the things is there are one business problem that traceability solves, and the sustainability problem. Business problem, I was talking about regulation. I mean, to import in these, especially US and Europe, has become more stringent, and a lot of other countries are coming up. They really want to demonstrate where the origin information is. It's a legal requirement. I mean, if you look at the United States Food Safety and Modernization Act, they expect you to, all the food imported need to document some level of. Then basically Food Safety and Modernization Act in Europe has a similar things. Um, so the origin information becomes very important in that case. And then, people like the other thing that business problem is this company is trying to build their reputation. Okay. For example, you're a chocolate company or a coffee company, even the cotton. I mean, there's so much they're causing destruction to the environment. Cocoa is known for deforestation, child labor. So the consumers are demanding that we want to have a clean cocoa, right? I mean, it shouldn't be causing. So then, right now, there's so much pressure that they're documenting all the farmers' origin information. You'll be surprised. Everybody that procures cocoa from the farmer and then supplies to chocolate companies, the chocolate companies are demanding that they give the entire farmers data with their location, because if they have a forest designated areas, if any farmer is in that area, they want to drop from the supply chain. So that type of things are happening. So the businesses, two things, right? They have a legal and the brand reputation. Okay, that's one of the reasons it's happening. And then the other is the a sustainability problem, right? They want to have this PR. I mean, they go a little bit of hand in hand, but they want to do right things. They want to, minimize the impact in the environment. They want to grow without chemicals. They want to treat the farmers fairly. They want to have this, pay the right price, and then they want to make sure there are no child labor, sale labor. So this is type of a sustainability issues. Okay, their commitments, this also lead into their brands, but this is more of a softer way of building their brand. So these are the two reasons that's driving a lot more traceability, adoption of traceability. And in that, obviously, I mean, traceability existed without digital tools also, right? I mean, you could have some manual batch numbers, but digitization only that makes it that much easier, that much efficient, and you could go all the way to the farm level. Okay, so that's the demand, how it is being driven. And then, so the food safety, right? I mean, you saw the contamination, like some places, especially this more organized retail, you have a problem with lettuce somewhere, and they have no choice but pull out lettuce from every shelf in every store. So it becomes very costly. And according to some, we just have one statistic in just Asia Pacific, every year $8 billion is lost in the there's $8 billion every year they're losing just in Asia Pacific. Okay, and it's a lot more. So you can basically providing the traceability, you could really come down to a very smaller lot that you can confidently demonstrate that these lots are contaminated. And so there is a huge efficiency, cost saving, and a food safety concern, right? At the end of the day, it's all about food safety concern. I mean, especially the meat, industry, you see there's so much opportunity for contamination. Okay, and right now, you go to any US store, you have hardly any traceability. I mean, the QR codes they have, sometimes you scan, it will go to a recipe site, but there's nothing. So it is at a very nascent stage, but it has the, right now, people like me, when I see some videos of how the food is produced, it is scary. Okay, you will start. So the challenge is, good or bad, it is industrialized. Good or bad, it is global. The only way we could assure the customer is, you document the whole process, and it is possible. Right now, we have technologies, we have tools to document in a very cost-effective manner, so that the end consumer can feel confident that he is able to eat whatever he's eating is safe, and doesn't have to worry about it.
Excellent, very well explained, Venkat. Very well explained. Because I strongly believe what you said, that food safety and security both are important, not just to one. So very well articulated. So that brings us to the last section of our interview, where I am looking for a silver bullet from you for the people in the agriculture ecosystem, specifically the founders and the entrepreneurs who are in AgTech, and they look towards you as someone who has been there, done that. So what would be your 4 or 5 silver bullets for them so that they are able to handle this COVID, and once this is over, they are also able to aspire to become what you are?
Yeah, so what I want to say is actually the first thing is agriculture is one of the least digitized sector until now by any means. Okay, food and agriculture, you take it. Okay, so I mean the opportunity is huge because you're starting at a very small base. Okay, when I talk about 1.2 million, 1 million farmers and 1.2 million farmers, people get excited. Oh, that's a big number. Then I tell them there are 500 million farmers. So I'm just scratching on the surface. So that's a kind of opportunity you have. So anybody who is entering this, I think this is a great time to enter. And sometimes people also talked about, hey, this is one company, this company. Oh, so many people are doing it, and they can't even name 5 companies, 10 companies maximum. My direct competition, if I have to pick beyond 3, 4, very difficult to say I'm competing, because there's so many aspects of agriculture and food that you could work on. There's a lot of scope. So I said 4, 5 companies I'm not worried about. See how many ERP companies are out there. Do you know how many ERP companies? Probably this many. Right? The supply chain companies, you talk about it. So the thing is, it's a good thing that people are working in it, right? Because otherwise you're a crazy fellow, people will think. And that was, when 7 years back I started, people thought I was crazy too. And it was difficult, very hard, I believe it or not, but it changed a lot. So it's a great area to be in. And then today, I mean, I will say this one, the mobile technologies, right? No technology in the human history has penetrated so fast to reach, and the impact it had at the bottom of the pyramid, right? No, probably less than 20 years, I think. You have 90% coverage, places like India to even Africa. I mean, no technology, take electricity to, I don't know, automobiles to, you take antibiotics. I mean, major technology. They took decades and decades to go and touch the common man at the bottom of but the mobile technology has a profound impact on the bottom of the pyramid, and that is actually offered so much, unleashed so much entrepreneurship. Okay, and it can only get better. And of course, the remote sensing existed, all that. I mean, I'm not too, but I still feel the mobile has really a transforming effect. And then the third thing is, I mean, COVID has proven that nothing is more important. When people said shutting down, and even we were worried about how do we get groceries, where to apply, that's one single thing. We were worried about planning and delivering and all that. Never ever. So the food is essential. Agriculture is essential. So this is recession proof. So this is a great industry to work on and do some social good. I mean, there's so much social good, especially when it comes to the smallholder farmers, improving their livelihood, improving their sustainability. It actually keeps me going. I mean, for me, every day, sitting in Boston, sometimes people thought I'm crazy to work on this. But hey, end of the day, it is a wonderful to be able to touch these many humans in these many places to make their lives better. And then so just as an entrepreneur, you have to be like it's any other entrepreneur. I mean, it's a great space to be in, but you have to really work hard and be face I mean, there is a saying there, you're lonely. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you think, when you talk these videos and you go and talk on the stage of a big conference, it feels good, but most of the time as an entrepreneur, you're lonely, you're struggling, you're sometimes thinking about that next paycheck for your employees, or next thing again, so there are a lot of ups and downs. Somebody has to be prepared for it, but the journey is going to be very, very rewarding. Okay, so that's my a couple of wisdom, and it's a great place, and there's so much scope for a lot of people should work in this area. That's what I would say.
Great learning for all the entrepreneurs out there. Life is tough, and you have to be tougher than the life.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Venkat. It was pleasure understanding from you all the intricacies and the nuances of agriculture industry and the traceability and digital agriculture. I believe together all of us we would be able to make agriculture digital-driven agriculture. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I agree.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you. Appreciate. Okay. Bye bye.